So yeah, hi. We'll start with kind of nothing to do with my talk, tips for speakers. Because you're usually, I mean, when you, so one of the things I always do before going on the stage is to empty my pockets from all of the things, so it doesn't, but I didn't do this time, because this is a kind of a no, because I'm not professional here. So this is not the professional kind of Ori on stage. This is the community Ori. And the community Ori is imprecise. He has stuff in his pockets, and I'll talk about some of the stuff I have later. I have a bunch of shit. Okay, so I work like I would imagine many of you, and I do not work at communauteering. I get money for other stuff, so I work for that thing. Platform.se. Oh, yeah. And I think I've invented the real name policy against which I am very, very much. But I never, yeah. When I was 8, I had a hacker name. But afterwards, I just went for Ori Pekelman. So I'm Ori Pekelman everywhere, GitHub, LinkedIn, Twitter. And I was a developer in Paris in 2006, it was 10 years for me doing startups in Paris. And I absolutely did not know there were any other people like me in Paris. I've never met a developer in Paris until 2006. I've met some, but they weren't kind of doing my kind of stuff. And so I met developers because, I don't know, I made startups and then I hired people to develop. And that was much, very much the extent of my relationship with them. If there was a community somewhere, I did not find it. And it was precisely 10 years ago, around November 2006, okay, so the thing was that I wanted to make a new startup, yay. And it required, I believed it would require doing something like a semantic wiki. So the project was called Family Photos, never happened. And it was about writing the history of your own family through photographs, where you can just really simply go around the head of the uncle, and you don't really know, who's that one, and someone else from the family can fill the blanks. It was a cute, and I was like, okay, I need a wiki, photo, semantic, Googled. And then I saw a semantic wiki session at a bar camp. Good. And kind of my first thought was, this is probably going to cost me money. It's a conference. And I didn't really understand anything from the webpage. It was totally kind of ridiculous and not understandable. And I still went, and I met a bunch of people, and this is comes from this is really cute. So this comes from a mash pit at Google. So this is the first bar camp organized at Google. This is something like probably February, I don't know, November. Yeah, November 2006. Okay. And this guy he worked for Yahoo. So this is Rasmus Lerdorf, the guy that did PHP. I coded with him, and I was, yeah, I won't say the trolley thingies. So the whole thing basically started around 2005. There were tech conferences. There were always tech conferences. And basically there was almost always a format called Birds of Feather, where people would, after the serious people, the not so serious people would talk together and have kind of a whiteboard session. And it wasn't a format or a movement or a community. And somewhere around that time, and that's a very interesting thing, a guy invented bar camps, which is absolutely not the precise way, but the trademark, and the trademark in the sense of making a bulk load of money out of this 10 years later, went to the inventor of the hashtag, Mr. Chris Messina. And it was, the basic idea was, and basically the way it happened wasn't because someone made a birds of feather session any better than other birds of feather sessions were before, but because there was a wiki. The main driving force around the incredible success of the Barcamp movement was the fact that, and this kind of goes back a bit to the talk that was before, the level of energy needed in order to create the first engagement was to understand, which is really, really hard. Intellectually, it's a very hard thing. But to understand that you could click on the edit button, and you could add your name, and that was about it. So again, this is kind of the low touch, low budget idea about making an event, and there is a kind of a sort of, and we'll talk about this a bit, ideology and a feeling of community things, love community, and maybe free stuff. And this is not about corporations, right? But one of the things that really kind of amused me is that, yeah, maybe, but the first thing they're talking about is schwag. So I brought some. Mine. Take. It's really cool. All of you can. It's really cool, really. You put it on the patch on the side, and it has my logo on it. We'll get into it because there are a lot of kind of lies we tell ourselves about the community thing, and this is about love and growing. Yeah. And it's also interesting if you look at the themes of Barcamp 1. Some women tech. We're basically talking about this for 10 years now, and basically still nothing has happened. So we are still kind of in the very embarrassing 10th anniversary of talking about this and having less than 10% of women doing, and 25% of people talking on the stage, and they have to talk about women in tech. It's kind of, okay. But if you look at the other thing, kind of, oh, Google, hi. Hi. Microsoft weren't really there yet. It would take 3 years, but let's continue on. And again, there is an ideology around this. We will do an unconference later, kind of maybe try to work this ideology. But the idea that everybody participates and I'm not more important than you guys, so I can just sit down and finish this, which is not what I'm going to do. So barcamp.org, this is an archive.org vision of this. It's an interesting thing. So boom, it was kind of, and it lived, and everybody could click and make events and then kind of, oh yeah, something else happened, and the fact and the barrier of engagement became even much lower. It is easier to use a dedicated tool where you can just say RSVP, then click edit on a wiki, where you have to learn a markup. So you can say, oh, it got no, this is just spam. We lost the account that allows us to moderate barcamp.org. So it's basically no longer moderated, and we just try to make it. And the kind of Barcamp, and this is also a very interesting thing kind of on the history of the internet and whatever we're doing, and this is kind of the changes. If the problem persists after 5 years, contact support. Okay, so I'm going to talk just a bit more about me and then try to really, really go faster on this. So I'm kind of maybe legitimate to talk about this anyway in Paris, because I've helped organize a billion things at a point in time. Kind of 20-ish, maybe 40-ish Barcamps of different sorts. I led, as a beautiful dictator, the Drupal community in Paris for 2 years or something like that. Then I did a hostile takeover of Paris data gigs, not very hostile. We drank beer when we were 13, and then I said, okay, let's, data and stuff. And then a bunch of many others. There is currently a lively Go community in Paris. But I did the first one. And there is a lovely JavaScript community. But often enough, and I understand that the Elixir guys are going strong, and it's really, really cool, and Michael Raymond is doing his job, and yay! Hey. And oh yeah, this is the most horrible thing. The functional programmers group was taken over by the Haskell people. We never said it. We just said functional program, and they just. You can talk about Idris there, but that's a. Yeah, and I believe the main reason for the end of the Barcamp movement is this logo, because I mean you couldn't do it. Yeah. So Benoît Talabo, guys, I mean, you can't do any better than this. So after this, so we're kind of the current state of affairs is this is a real screenshot. This is not Photoshop. So there's a story to this, and one of the stories, by the way, is that I opened a meetup, Barcamp Paris thingy on meetup.com. We've decided to do a cute Barcamp 0. And then they said, no. Moderated away. Really? It's a cool thing. Where meetup.com tells Barcamp, no. And these days it's kind of mostly, my community work is mostly responding to people on Slack. And who is responsible for establishing partnerships in your community? I mean, I don't know. I mean, we don't. This is a community thing, right? It's the community.
It's an AI.
Yeah. So I'm going to go now into the real. This was kind of a framework. Now to the subject. The show of hands led by Sylvain showed that a lot of you are organizing things. Let's call them communities. Why not? And there are reasons to this. So for me, really, the initial reason was that where's my, okay. Oh, I forgot. Okay, I was alone. I forgot this one. I was alone, meeting people. I was all alone for 10 years, nobody to geek with. Only online, only somewhere else. And then really, and this is still the main reason for which I'm a manipulator, okay? And the main reason for which I create communities when they don't exist around me is because I'm really, really lazy. And this way, I can say, okay, I want to learn about Elixir. Looks like a very interesting language. I know some Erlang. The best way to learn about Elixir, create a group called Elixir User. People will arrive, they will do great sessions, you will learn. It's, very efficient. So, then, you want to learn, and often enough, you want to make, you do community stuff because you want to make a bulk load of money. And that's half of the people in this room. My company expects that all the community love and non-corporate, and we're really, really not corporate, and this is not about, this is community and love and sharing, and making us a bulk load of money, or we won't be sitting here in this room with Google and have coffee, and a beautiful machine there that is, which is not hey, making money is not a bad thing. I'm not a communist. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm just, transparency of it is interesting if you say it. And of course, for me, it's mostly about being liked, revered, and feared. You should fear me, really. And fear Sylvain, also. We've talked about this a bit earlier, the Baron of Paris. There are a lot of motivations. And you know, part of it is, really, I was helped when I discovered in 2006 the thingy where there were other people interested in stuff like I was interested in. Suddenly my life changed. I was not alone anymore. The startups I was doing were much better now. And I had more fun. And it's also about the fact that I want to live as a good person. And there are causes I care about, and I want, you know, to advance them. And this is, and the community thing is a way to do it. And of course, also because I'm an extremely evil person. And of course, because I want to advance the functional languages which are correct over your broken shit. Which means trolling. That was a joke. I don't really care. The reason for which you are doing this is going to define a level of control you will want to exert over the community thing. And you're always going to exert some. Now, you want to exert this because you had all of these, you know, good sentiments before. But, and again, going back to Sylvain, if your event is boring, whatever were the initial reasons for which you wanted to do that, they will fall flat. And you, and the only way in which it's not going to be boring is doing the 7-time repetition with the guys. Nobody is a perfect speaker the first time around. I didn't know how to do a bar camp and do this and know that I'm supposed to be walking, you know, on the stage and not stay there. When I did my first thing, I was kind of around here and trying just not to. I'm so laughable. I'm really so ridiculous. And one of the things, again, after the love and everything, probably a bunch of you, you know, have at least a bit of a sciencey thingy. You know about entropy. And you know that entropy will destroy any human structure if it doesn't have structure. It's a natural thing, and I don't even know it's a bad thing, but and basically every time you put people together, they will start fighting. They're nice. They're all good people. They all want to advance good against evil. And control, when I say control, I mean, I'm not talking about the evil kind of control. And this was really not a social experiment, but it's still a cool demonstration. Has you seen, like, you know, this weird community rule, our community, that was adopted, everybody speaking the minority language? That's, I mean, I didn't want kind of, hey, I'm the, you know, head honcho, and I say everybody speak English now. Almost ending this this weird demonstration today. Someone is making money, you know, around this thing. Someone expects to be making money, and it's either you, the company you work with, or you are serving someone else. And in any way, these aspects of control you're going to exert over the community, which is making choices, which is from time to time telling someone to shut the hell up. Again, without the shut the hell up, sometimes, so there's a question, you know, of trolling on the interwebs, on the Twitters, but trolling happens everywhere. If no one is willing to step up and be the bad guy or girl, be the one that doesn't, you know, doesn't take shit and is willing to look a bit less community-ish and pure. Again, because, and it's not forcefully, you know. So you see, basically, I mean, hey, guys, I didn't do it. I didn't invent this. Talk to these guys. I mean, so, you know, so you see, the yellow Yellow goes there. Other than that, it's just, yeah, I just discovered this. We all have vested interests, and the people around us have vested interests. And this is, and again, I'm not saying that not all of you are absolutely good people. I would imagine that if you're doing this, you are good people, and you want to advance a public good, which is a great thing. But then again, around the falseness of the community thing, which means being at, maybe we'll do a privacy session next, because we're at Google. And they will be okay with it, They don't care. And you can do it at Microsoft, and they won't care either. And let's do the open source thing at Microsoft. Now there are bestest of friends, right? For the past 7 years, right? There are always some kind of mixed interest around the thing. And it's okay, again, this is life. And this is not, there are always, politics and stuff. And if you're just starting up in this domain, or you've been here for 10 years, you know that it takes a toll. That there is an effect to the accumulative playing with Microsoft and Google, and the guy that knows how to code, but is really, how to say, and this time I'm not saying guy or girl, I'm just saying guy, because the guy that talks about meritocracy and believes his voice should be heard, although he cannot participate in the community. Yeah, that guy. And it's a lot about not lying to yourself and to the others, about the community thing and the interests. And 2006, they were cute cats. Okay, 2016, we replaced them with squirrels, because now squirrels are much more professional than cats. I have no idea why. But it's true. I mean, we are. And again, I kind of in this talk, I'm kind of asking you to interrogate your motivations and try to extrapolate them over the future, over a time period in the next 1 year, 2 year. You are going to have, in order for this to work, to exert control. If you don't, it will devolve into something serving corporate interests much more than you would agree. Unless you're the guy already working for the corporate interests, and it's okay. But then and that there is a point in time in which it should be okay. You should feel fine with the idea of relinquishing control, and this can totally end up with whatever you were working on for 2 years, or 3, or 5, or 10. Dying out because of the entropy. Sometimes the people will surprise you. I understand that the Elixir group is doing really, really nicely. I really hope so. I don't have time for that. So Elixir, I would like to have time for Elixir, but I don't. Again, these are kind of, look at this. There are probably 100 other motivations you can have. And these motivations should also tell you how much control are you willing to exert, how much suffering, because control, unless you're an weird egomaniac, doing this, talking with them, solving the problems, making it grow, making sure the content is beautiful, is going to be, hard and time-consuming. So you look at your interests rationally, which will mean the level of control that you're going to try to exert, which will often translate into the success of your community. The more control. If you're a good person, I'm talking only to the good. Evil people don't listen. The good persons amongst you, you pay the price of more control. Sometimes be ready to be blamed for being an evil dictator. But it also means that there is probably an expiry date on that. And that you want probably to work with the others, so they talk more than you. So when, So when you leave the community, it doesn't look like, oh, it's over now. I'm Ori Pekelman. I work for platform.sh. I have swag. And because the first rules of Barcamp say, I mean, kind of the third line of Barcamp says, hey, there's swag. So come for the swag. And probably the only reason I'm here is, some corporate interests of my cute startup. Because, it's Saturday morning. I haven't organized the thing on Saturday morning for years now, because there's the theater thing, and then there's the birthday thing. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Questions?
All information was given. Nothing is unanswered.
All clear. All clear. All clear 3, all clear 2, all clear 1. Only no questions. Very good. Or maybe it's the lunch. Who knows?
Yeah. Thank you.